أناديكم أشد على أياديكم وأبوس الأرض تحت نعالكم وأقول أفديكم. أناديكم أشد على أياديكم وأبوس الأرض تحت نعالكم وأقول أفديكم.
وأهديكم ضياع عيني ودفء القلب أعطيكم.
وأهديكم ضياع عيني ودفء القلب أعطيكم.
فمأساتي التي أحيا نصيبي من مآسيكم.
وأهديكم ضياع عيني ودفء القلب أعطيكم.
فمأساتي التي أحيا نصيبي من مآسيكم.
أناديكم أشد على أياديكم وأبوس الأرض تحت نعالكم وأقول أفديكم. أناديكم أشد على أياديكم وأبوس الأرض تحت نعالكم وأقول أفديكم.
أنا ما هنت في وطني ولا صغرت أكتافي.
أنا ما كنت في وطني ولا صغرت أكتافي.
وقفت بوجه ظلامي يتيما عاريا حافي.
أنا ما كنت في وطني ولا صغرت أكتافي.
وقفت بوجه ظلامي يتيما عاريا حافي.
أناديكم أشد على أياديكم وأبوس الأرض تحت نعالكم وأقول أفديكم. أناديكم أشد على أياديكم وأبوس الأرض تحت نعالكم وأقول أفديكم.
حملت دمي على كفي وما نكست أعلامي.
حملت دمي على كفي وما نكست أعلامي.
وصنت العشب الأخضر فوق قبور أسلافي.
حملت دمي على كفي وما نكست أعلامي.
وصنت العشب الأخضر فوق قبور أسلافي.
أناديكم أشد على أياديكم وأبوس الأرض تحت نعالكم وأقول أفديكم. أناديكم أشد على أياديكم وأبوس الأرض تحت نعالكم وأقول أفديكم. أناديكم 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 أناديكم.
Good morning. Going to start with a land acknowledgement. San Francisco State is located on the occupied territories of the Ramaytush Ohlone and the coastal Miwok, who, along with the Southern Pomo, are organized as the Federated Indians of Gran Rancheria. We are fully committed to the right of land back and the exercise of the right of return for all indigenous and displaced people. The United States is enabling and directly involved in the ongoing genocide of the Palestinian people and many other people, past and present. Just as our land acknowledgement reminds us that we conduct the university's business on the basis of the genocidal dispossession in Turtle Island, in complicity with another on the land of Palestine. It is also an urgent reminder that it is not too late for us to stand against the genocide in Palestine and others anywhere in the world. We ask for everyone to join us for a moment of silence to honor and pay condolences to the people of Iran. South Lebanon has been bombed just as much as Palestine. We also honor the martyrs who have fallen in Venezuela, Gaza, the streets of Minneapolis, Los Angeles, elsewhere in the United States, Congo, Sudan, South Africa, Lebanon, Puerto Rico, Kashmir, anywhere and everywhere around the world. We honor everybody, and we also remember the martyrs who have fallen a long time ago, the martyrs who have fallen for a people's struggle, and who continue to fall day in and day out. We also wanted to thank everyone who made this open classroom possible, our co-sponsors, Arab and Muslim Diasporas, Arab and Muslim Ethnicities and Diaspora Studies, Teaching Palestine, the Arab American and Muslim American Green Party Caucus, and CUNY for Palestine, and We're All Gaza.
And I would like to add that I would like to thank Laith, who has been extremely supportive, and Laith will introduce themselves. I also would like to thank Sahar Francis, who has been a very long time supporter, a lawyer who defends prisoners and rights of prisoners, who will be joining us during the Palestinian Prisoner Week in 2 weeks' time. And I would also like to thank Suhad Bshara, who is from Adala Center, who has introduced us to Muna, who will be joining us today. And before any continuing, I would like to have everybody here joining us to just introduce themselves very, very briefly, so you would know who's with us today. And we will start with the youngest person, Laith. Go ahead, please, Laith.
Hi, everyone. My name is Laith Galoom. I'm joining from Minneapolis, where the past few months have seen all the ICE raids and ICE activity. I'm a graduate student at the University of Minnesota, and I'm writing about queer Iranian diasporas in Los Angeles and the current war and the response to the war. So there's been a lot going on from my side, to say the least.
Then we'll go to the next young person, Omar Asaf. Omar, are you hearing us? Omar. I think Omar is not hearing us, so we'll go to Muna. Can you please introduce yourself?
Hi, Munna Haddad. I am a lawyer with Adala, the Legal Center for Arab Minority Rights in Israel. Also finalizing my PhD in law at Queen Mary University of London, focusing on Israel's use and abuse of Palestinian corpses.
Thank you. Ahla wa sahla. First time you and I meet. I know Adala, but I have never met you. We visited Adala, actually. And we then we'll go to Nardine, whom I've known for a very long time, but I'll talk later about you. Nardine, please go ahead.
Nice to meet you all. My name is Nadine Kiswani. I'm a Palestinian organizer based in New York City. I've been organizing within our lifetime, which I founded in 2015. And I'm also a graduate of the CUNY School of Law, class of 2022, and a lot more to study throughout the panel.
Yes, of course you do. Okay, I'm trying to get Omar again. Omar, سامعنا؟
أنا مش عم بحكي، أنا مش عم أسمع.
قيم السماعات. قيم السماعات. احكي. عم نسمعك إحنا، عم نسمعك، بس أنت مش عم تسمعنا؟ ليس, maybe when we start a little bit, you can get off the screen and see how you can help Omar. Okay. In the meanwhile, let me just introduce, I hope. It will work out. Since we have him on the screen, we will figure out how to do it. And maybe he can also join by phone and also be on the screen. We can hear him. At least we can hear him and figure out how we do it. So first of all, I welcome you all. It's really wonderful. The minute Omar comes, we'll ask him to introduce himself. And if everybody can mute while we're okay. So first of all, I welcome you. This is really wonderful. But let me no, don't go off the screen yet, Nardine. We'll do it in due time, you know. So and then you can go, and I guess you need to go take care of your son, right? Because he's around you. So cute. We want to bring him in to say hello as well. And this is a very important panel today that we are doing, and we're doing it actually as urgent. We in a very few days we've organized it. We this is but this comes a very important period in for Palestine and for the world. We have been doing urgent open classrooms one after another. We've been doing them as part of our generally we do open classroom teaching Palestine, pedagogical praxis, and the indivisibility of justice, in order for us to bring the word into the classroom and take our students outside of the classroom to meet the world and our communities. And this is a practice that we have taken very long time ago in order to make sure that the university does not stay as a small silo, that the students are not aware of what's going on. And so they learn about what's happening in the world, and also the world engages with the students. We also engage as teachers, scholars, community activists, and what we call living archives, elders who can come and engage with the student, pass on knowledge, activism, histories, experiences that are not necessarily written in the books and might never be able to be written in the books, either because our community organizers did not have the time to write down, or people did not interview them to write down, or maybe they interviewed them and the histories did not get written the way we wanted them as organizers to be written. And I'm sure all of you know what we're talking about. That's even a very long, another open classroom to talk about. But we feel that it's really important to do so and pass on the knowledge while we're still all alive, the older people, the OGs, if you will. And that's one reason, but also the fact that we're producing knowledge in the universities. And scholars in the universities think that they own knowledge, that we are the first station and the last station to produce knowledge. And it's very important to basically maybe bust that bubble and become more humble and understand that the knowledge is not produced in the university. The university reproduces, looks at, critiques, which is an important role. And in the movements to change the world, there is a role for the scholar, and there's a role for people. أهلا وسهلا عمر، كيف؟ زبط الحمى. تقدر تحكي؟ Can you talk؟
بحكي طبعا بقدر.
أول أبدأ وقف تعرف عن حالك لو سمحت. So Umar is going to speak in Arabic and then I will translate. بس تقدر تعرف عن حالك بدك ترجمة. ليش you can come back please. زي ما بدك.
ما بيهمش يعني تساعديني احسن.
ولا يهمك.
طيب انا سريعا بعرف على حالي. انا اسمي عمر عساف، لاجئ من يعني بيت نبالة 1942. تعلمت في مدارس الوكالة في مخيم، وكملت تعليمي الجامعي في دمشق، ومن ثم عدت وانخرطت في العمل الوطني. انسجنت حوالي 8 سنوات. وأنشط في أوساط المعلمين وفي أوساط الحركة الوطنية بشكل عام.
اوكي خلاص اوكي. طيب عمر عساف، ما انا بعرف كل حياتك. I'm sorry, I'm talking to Umar as if we're okay. Umar Assaf was born in 1942.
أنا 1950
1950 in Deir Nabala, and then is a refugee who grew up and learned in the UNRWA, United Nations Refugee Agency for Palestinian Refugees, in the schools there, and has learned and grew up, and then and spent all his life as a teacher. You didn't even say that, but I did. As a teacher, as an activist, and also I would add as a trade unionist. We actually hosted Omar multiple times to talk about the Palestinian trade union movement and a Palestinian labor and workers activities, and he's been doing all of this stuff, and also as an activist in Palestinian national and political circles. Okay, and we will talk more about that as we go along. Okay, I'm gonna go try to see where I saw. Okay, yeah, and so but this is what we believe, that the academic, the scholars' rights, the scholars' responsibility is to be able to learn that knowledge, and also participate in changing society. And we believe it's our role to produce knowledge for justice. And so this is the role we do, and this is the role we believe in the Arab and Muslim Ethnicity and Diaspora Studies program, Ahmed, at San Francisco State University. Engage in open classrooms to also be able to share what we are doing, what we're producing with our communities, with everybody else, so we can pay our dues to society and engage in pushing our communities, our word towards justice as our responsibility. And that's what we would call organic intellectuals. Organic intellectuals. Nardine, if you want to bring your son in, that's fine. It's because I, and we.
I'm teaching my little sister how to.
Okay.
He's the first grandkid for my parents. First, niece and nephew on our side. So
that's nice. Generation after generation. Okay, that's cute. So and so this is why we do the open classrooms, and we'd like to share the conversations we have instead of having them in a small room. We'd like to share them with the whole world. For us in particular, Ahmed receives no funding, zero funding, because the university has cut us off. We have not a penny. So we do all of this stuff on the fly. And so we would like the open classroom, being able to do this online has liberated us. We don't have to go to the university to try to get the classroom and get canceled, which was exactly our experiences right before COVID. We can connect with our communities all over the world. We can learn and hear. There is a problem with the language because we don't have the funds to be able to do the translation we need, but we also do it. We can do whatever we need to do to move forward. And so this is in general why we do that. Today we are in a context that the word is on fire. The word, as like we're even here, our own lives, and you'll hear from our speakers, lies themselves, the graduate assistant who is assisting me with disabilities and also with research and so on. Lies is in Minnesota, joins us from Minnesota, where ICE has already killed at least 2 martyrs for the movement. It's chasing people around. It's a fire zone. It's like it's Minnesota, and we see what's going on. It's similar to things that are happening in Palestine. We know that Iran, the US, and Israel are bombing Iran left and right, and we had 4 open classrooms during the series Ramadaniyat. And we did that because the university canceled my class on Islamophobia, which is the only class in the whole university. So we did the series to discuss, and we focused on the war on Iran and Palestine and Lebanon and so on. And then we also know that if there are things that have happened now we were already planning to commemorate, and we did this 2 days ago, the Land Day, the 50th anniversary of Land Day. And this is where the song that we started with, Unadikum, comes from. This is the song that Tawfiq Zayyad, who has passed, who was the mayor of Nazareth, and he was the chair of the committee that commemorated Land Day in 1976. And it came about in protest of Israel's taking over lands, not from the land occupied in 1967, but from the land that was occupied in 1948 of Palestinian citizens that are supposed to be equal under the Israeli law, that Israel refers to Palestinians there as the Arabs of Israel. And I know, Muna, this is your area, so I'm not going there. But this is so there is land still being taken again and again. This poem was written in 1966. It wasn't written in 1976. It was written by Tawfiq Zayyad in 1966. Before him, in 1964, Mahmoud Darwish wrote Write Down I'm an Arab. In 1965, Samih al-Qasim wrote Enemy of the Sun, which we will know by the Enemy of the Sun. Yeah, Enemy of the Sun. I will stand up, and people know it here because it was the poem that was found in George Jackson's cell, and people thought that it was written by George Jackson, and then they realized that it was Samih al-Qasim, and the whole discussion about Palestinian Black solidarity and so on, another discussion. But it came, and the reason we know about it because another martyr, Ghassan Kanafani, who was martyred in 1972, killed by the Mossad agents in the age of Golda Meir, who authorized the assassination, put all these poems together and wrote a book called Adab al-Muqawma, the literature of resistance. Ahmad Ka'bour, who's a Lebanese singer, came upon the music, and in 1975 composed the music to Unadikum. And this became a cry, a battle cry for justice, for fighting for liberation. And every time people write it and think of it and think, and everybody knows it, like everybody knows it in our generation, I would say, Omar and mine, and then younger generation, as they think about liberation of connecting. And it's beautiful. We will be able to talk about it maybe in 2-3 weeks. Marwan Kabur, Omar Ahmad's son, Allah yarhamu, is coming back from Lebanon after, attending the funeral for his dad, and we will be hosting him, and we will be talking about Ahmad Kabur, the various songs, how it connects Palestine and Lebanon, and the words, and so we will be able to pay real homage to Ahmad. But I thought it's really important because it was the 50th anniversary of Land Day 3 days ago, and also we are now in the not only the 50th anniversary of Land Day, but we're also on the 90th anniversary of the 1936-39 revolt, which Land Day is very much connected. And the film by Anne-Marie Jasser, the amazing Palestinian director, is playing, and this is a very important opportunity for us to learn about that and to also read the book by Ghassan Kanafani, 1936-39, and analyze it and learn about it. And I was actually on Monday at Sarah Lawrence College speaking with the students who have done a great job learning and analyzing. And this is what we do. And this is something that is really important. In the midst of all this going on, and the midst of Israel bombing, Israel and the U.S. bombing Iran, and it looks like neither Israel nor the U.S. are able to have to come up with their achievements and so on. They failed. Okay, we know. I mean, I'm going to stop there because also Omar can talk about that, and we'll talk about that more, and maybe the two of you as well. In the midst of all of this, more things start happening, and as we prepare for the Prisoners' Day, the International Day of Solidarity with the Palestinian prisoners, April 17th, we usually do a whole week, and now students on universities are also organizing for Israel Apartheid Week. Universities all over the world doing it, and students have not been defeated. They continue organizing, and we know that Nardine being here with us is also an example that they haven't defeated, and the students keep coming up, and we'll talk about that as well. Things happen within a week. Within a week, things happen. Within a week, Nardine, we find out, and Nardine finds out that there is a plot that was set against her to assassinate her. I mean, look at this nice face, beautiful young woman, lawyer, who is the promise of our future, of the future of the Palestinian people, that Israel and Zionist movement would like to end, to say there are no Palestinians. This is part of the genocide against the Palestinian people. If you think it's something isolated, it's not. This is part and parcel of it. An assassination attempt right here in New York City, and it is enabled and allowed by the U.S. government and the encouragement by the media and the policymakers and so on, because nobody could go by himself just do this. And it reminds us also of what happened to Alex Ode 33 years ago. So we will talk about that. This is something like is shocking. And so we will hear from Nardine. We would like you to tell your story. And Nardine is also a lawyer. And so we want to talk about what happened to you in law school, what's happening here. We want to talk about within our lifetime, the organization you founded. We want to talk about the activities you did. You organized after October 7th, and I've written about that. So I want to talk. We have a class called Arab Revolutions and Social Movements. So this is one of the things that, kind of like, how do you organize social movements? So that's then with are we talking about that? Omar Assaf, who is one of the organizers and coordinator of this big organization of Palestinians called the Palestinian Popular Conference, 14 million, is organizing and works with other people to put together a statement that supports Iran in its war, in its defensive war against U.S. and Israel that attacked Iran. All of a sudden, they decided they're going to attack. I'm not saying all of a sudden, no context, but they decided to attack Iran, and Iran defended itself. And so Omar and other people decide to write a statement to say, we Palestinians, Arabs, Palestinians, we support Iran and we want to publish that, and we are against US bases in Arab world, and we are, and they should not be there. They have no business to be in the Arab world. They need to go, and we believe that all the Arab people should come together with each other for our own liberation, for our own interests, and for the liberation of Palestine. Very nice, very simple. In my opinion, who signed this statement, I thought it was too measured. I told Omar, too balanced. I'm happy to sign it. It was like really, I'm like, okay, it could be higher, but it's fine. It's okay. That was very troubling to Arab regimes and to the Palestinian Authority. That it's not, don't think of it as like an Arab government or something, was troubling. So they arrested Omar and they put him in prison to demand that the statement does not get out. So Omar is going to tell us about that, the whole details and what's going on, talk about the content, the arrest of Omar, but also the content of the statement. What does this reflect? What does this mean? Why the arrest happened? What do we need to do about it? And what does this represent in the midst after 2.5 years of genocide in Gaza, pounding Gaza and the resistance of our people? All of it supplied and enabled by millions and billions of dollars of money and weapons from the United States, and Israel's continuing its genocidal war, direct genocide again for the erasure of the Palestinians. As we are dealing with these issues and others, Israel finishes and approves the law for executing Palestinian prisoners. Executing Palestinian prisoners and the law for executing, and you know, most of the world is moving towards no death penalty as a humanitarian thing, and discussing that what does really mean imprisonment. Many of us are pushing towards abolition, even no prisons whatsoever. And I'm sure, Nardine, you also will have some things to say about that as a lawyer as well. People are talking about abolition completely. And these folks not only want to imprison, as the US government too in Minnesota and ICE and all of this stuff, they moving towards more imprisonment, more torture, more killing people. And so on, the Israel now approves execution of prisoners. And the execution law itself is even reflective of the racism of the state of Israel, that it only applies to Palestinians, doesn't apply to Israeli Jews. So we have Muna with us to speak about that, to explain to us what does it mean, to basically dissect the Sharia. This law, what does it mean? And also Muna is from Adala, which has been fighting and standing against all Israeli laws and so on. So we want to also put it in that context. So having spoken, and I'm going to now speak much less, just ask you questions and put it in context, especially my students take notes. You know, you have to write notes of memos about that. So I welcome you. I'm so happy that you are here, and I will ask you to start, and Omar will speak, and I will introduce, translate for him. So each one of you, I would like you to start, and we may not finish the conversation by the end of this. We may ask you to come back again. We most likely will ask you to come back again to speak about different. So I would like to start with Nardine. Tell us, speak about any aspect you'd like to speak about, introduce, give us introductory 5 minutes each first, and then we'll come around and we'll take notes and say what else we would want to follow on. And for the audience, please write your notes in the comments. You can, we'll pick them up and we will answer them afterwards. So Nardine, please go ahead.
Thank you for...
I'm very happy to have you. I'm very happy that you're safe and sound.
Alhamdulillah. I mean, I think this is, like you said, not an isolated incident, something that could have happened to any of us. And, being in this classroom setting or not liberated classroom setting, I'll just start off with, I'm so glad to have known you since I was a student, since around probably the same time that I founded Wool within our lifetime over 10 years ago. And the very reason that I founded it and organized to this day is exactly the premise behind what we're doing here today, is that we don't want the university and the activism at the university to be siloed, to be isolated from the Palestinian community and from, the broader community fighting for justice. And this is something that I was keenly aware of as somebody who grew up in the Palestinian community of New York City. I've lived here my entire life, and I felt like, we have SJP, we have all of these things on campus, and that's great. And I feel like, The students are now more revolutionary than ever with the encampments and everything. But at the time, a lot of the conversations were limited to very like liberal ideas or ideas that were very disconnected from the broader community. So, peace, things like that. People were still in the dynamic of a two-state solution. People were still talking about things limited to just a human rights perspective, and not talking about things like prisoners, like liberation, and like from the river to the sea, which is it's something that is a core tenet of the Palestinian struggle. But for many people in the US, of course, you not being among these type of people, but they've kind of abdicated at the time responsibility for speaking up in Palestine from that perspective. And we're just talking about it, from a NGO human rights perspective. And so this is why I founded this organization, to be able to revitalize the revolutionary spirit of Palestinians living in exile in pursuit of a free homeland. Because I know that, in our conversations at home, what we truly feel inside is that, we demand Palestinian liberation by any means necessary. In the words of Malcolm X, no ifs, ands, or buts. And we shouldn't be shy about talking like that. When you learn about other anti-colonial struggles, this is the norm. So why do we have to, put ourselves in this, NGO liberal, human rights framework that all it does is buy Israel time to continue to expand land settlements, to continue to imprison Palestinians, to continue the siege and blockade, with very little pushback. So, this is what I've been doing, what I've been focusing on through education, through organizing, through protests. Particularly in the last 3 years, we've seen protests balloon in a size that I've never have seen before in my life. Tens of thousands of people marching throughout the streets of New York City, not just demanding a ceasefire, but demanding the complete and total liberation of the Palestinian people, and then end to the Zionist project that harms people, not just in Palestine, but all over the world. And this is, precisely why I'm kind of elevated to this status by Zionist organizations as a figurehead of someone that they want to kill, somebody that they want to counter in any respect, because they want to turn us into symbols that if you are able to silence one, if you're able to punish one, then that'll reverberate across the country, across the movement, and cause other people to self-silence. And so that's exactly why I'm here today, because they want me to feel afraid. They want me to say, oh, I'm doing too much, let me take a step back so that I'm not targeted. But I'm not going to give them that win. I'm going to continue to speak out. And I know that, it is a risk for everyone to speak out, but we know that already, and it's worth that risk. And that our people in the refugee camps in Gaza and the West Bank, inherently live with that risk daily. And so I'm not better than them. This is what I've always said. I'm not better than them. I ended up living here, by circumstance. I could have been born in Gaza. I could have been born and stayed in a refugee camp. I actually was born as a refugee in Jordan and came to the US when I was 1. And so, we all have to take that risk just as much as each other. And again, this is part of a long history of targeting Palestinians wherever we are, from Palestine to us in exile. When we speak, organize, and build power, we're met with surveillance, repression, imprisonment, and in some cases, assassination attempts. So this is about silencing a movement, not just an individual. And so, we have to understand it in that context. At the same time, it wasn't hypothetical or rhetoric. This actually happened to me. And so it's important for me to show people in the US that the war that they fund abroad, the military, this ideology of Zionist terrorism, doesn't just end and start in Palestine, but it also comes to US soil. And it's not just going to target Palestinians. It's going to target anybody who's critical of the Zionist project. And so it's important for us to make that clear to all those, to everyone, who still hasn't been supportive of the Palestinian struggle, even in the last, 3 years of genocide. It is our job and our responsibility to continue to organize people, to make our liberation a reality and cut off all U.S. support from Israel. So I'll stop here.
I actually wanted to interrupt you because I know, as organizers and activists, when anybody is asked about what happened to them, we always want to contextualize. And I applaud you, and I definitely agree with you, because it is not what happens to a person. Individual story is the story of everybody, and I think it's really important that you contextualize it. But I do know that our audience would want to know exactly what happened. Exactly what happened. I do have a question, which you mentioned in the passing, how the construction of a devil, or one person, or a model that you don't want to be like Nardine Kuswani. This is what we're going to do in order to construct you as the evil and so on. But I want you to just say what happened, what the various ways in which they have targeted you. Can you just speak about that? And we will come to the other things that you mentioned about what happened in college and what happened. But I want you to speak about that particular, the various ways in which this organization targeted you. I don't think everybody knows about that. Can you speak about it?
Yeah. So the Jewish Defense League, and that's the same organization that killed Alex Oda in 1985 in California. They
Can you
firebombed.
say who he is, if you don't mind, because I don't think people know.
Yes, he was part of the ADC. I believe that stands for Anti-Discrimination Committee. He was a Palestinian activist who was murdered by Zionist thugs in his office, in the office of the ADC, an organization that exists to this very day, by firebombing him. And that's exactly what they try to do to me, the Jewish Defense League, which was founded by Mir Kahana. People say extremist Zionism. It's an easy way to kind of summarize and contextualize it, but it's all within the same strain. I mean, ultimately, it's the logical conclusion of Zionism itself. He also inspired Brooklyn-born Baruch Goldstein, who went and committed the Ibrahimi Mosque massacre, killed dozens of people while they were in sujood, during Ramadan. Someone who was born and raised in Brooklyn, right? These are all linked. These are all the same people. They've been targeting me for as long as I've been organizing. The JDL was actually considered a terrorist organization by the FBI. For some reason, in 2022, while Biden was president, they removed him. They removed them off of the list of terrorist organizations. But even before then, they would come to every protest, openly identify as JDL. I have articles and pictures and everything of them, saying that they are, which is literally like an FBI designated terrorist organization. They would openly identify such, protest us, attack us, yell at us, do everything, and nobody cared about it. So this person who tried to, had a plot to assassinate me, who was building 8 to 12, not sure the exact number, Molotov cocktails to throw at my house, at my vehicle, to harm my family. He was part of an offshoot of that group. It's called the JDL 613 Brotherhood. And, it turned out he had been posting online, so he wanted to ask people, how can I do target practice? How can I, do defense? It's literally called Jewish Defense League. When it comes to Palestinian activists, things like that. And an NYPD undercover officer, joined one of his calls, and for several weeks was on a video call with him. He would meet him. He was on video calls with him and other people that haven't been brought to justice. We don't know who their names are. We don't have any of this information yet. Talking about where they can go practice throwing Molotov cocktails, things like that. Also, this specific group in January literally tweeted at me saying, you and your disgusting son are vile scum. You have no right to exist in the US. We are always watching you, and we will meet one day, Nardine, like specifically saying this. So, I screenshotted that. I would post about that. I would also post about organizations like Batar that offered people $1,800 to hand me a beeper, obviously in reference to the Lebanon attack that left several children, families, maimed, disabled in Lebanon, one of the biggest terrorist attacks committed by Israel against the Lebanese people. And these are things that I felt like I was screaming into the void, talking about them, warning people about this kind of attack is imminent. And I was ignored. Batar and JDL would come and counter protest me in real life. They would literally lunge themselves at me. They would post online, like, when we see you tomorrow, we're going to rip the mask off of your face. And then we had, officers, instead of keeping them away from us at the very least, literally protecting them, literally defending them and helping them facilitate, these attacks on us. So I actually launched a lawsuit against Batar, and Batar, I'm bringing them up because they have the same tactics as the JDL. They work together on the JDL 613 Brotherhood's website. It literally says we work with many organizations such as Batar, explicitly mentioning they're working together. And I wanted basically to make it clear that they will be held accountable, whether it's protesting in the streets or in the courts of law, taking them to court. And so it's actually very interesting that, when I escalated my tactics in terms of filing a lawsuit against them, the Zionists escalated their tactics too. And, this undercover officer arrested this person, brought in with the FBI as well. So it wasn't just, it's federal now because he was going to cross state lines from New Jersey into New York. He was going to do this. And, they started calling me on Thursday night, exactly a week from today, calling me. I wasn't answering. I'm not going to answer no caller ID numbers. If anything, I think that they're Zionists. Calling my family members. Then they appeared at our door, started knocking the door. I thought it could be, who knows, it could be ICE. They want to start denaturalizing. Not that I would be the first Palestinian to be denaturalized, Rasmi Aouda was. But under this administration, that's something Batar always told me, that I was going to be denaturalized. And so, it could have been ICE, it could have been Zionist organizations. I wasn't answering. I wasn't going to answer the phone call. And then finally, my brother answered. They said, we can't tell you what's going on, but it concerns your sister's safety. We're part of the FBI. And, he gave me their number. I called him with my lawyer and they said somebody was on their way to harm you. We made an arrest. We don't believe you're in any imminent danger anymore, but we have a duty to inform you. And, when I asked about, who is this person? What is this about? Literally no information, like literally nothing. Like what I just said, that's the only thing I got out of them. Was in danger, no longer in danger, duty to inform. And they basically said, you're going to find out about it in the news tomorrow, along with everyone else, just like everyone else. So all these details that emerged, that he was part of the Zionist organizations, that he was going to flee to Israel, I was finding out about that in real time, along with everyone else. I found out about that he was going to go to Israel from Zohran Mamdani's post. And so, I already had a gut feeling. I already knew that this was going to be what this was about. But, I had no actual confirmation up until it became national news. And what's disappointing is that, this person's only being charged with possession and making a firearm. So this, essentially terrorist plot, attempted murder, all of these things, it's not even being brought into the question. And in the charging documents, it literally said that he was meeting with multiple people, that he was on video calls with multiple people, but it's only one person who was arrested. So in the same way that they want to scapegoat me and use me as their ultimate goal to go after a Zionist, I feel like they also authorities also want to quell us and our concerns and people who are finally turning against the Zionist movement by just arresting, one person who does this when, the threats have been coming from so many people. And I don't want to ramble, but honestly, there's so many details to this that have been happening over the last couple of months that are important to include because, another aspect of this is that Batar, which I was planning on suing even before this happened, they were founded by the Attorney General to be guilty of anti-Palestinian, anti-Muslim, anti-Arab, hate crimes essentially. But it wasn't criminal; it was civil. So there was no criminal prosecution. They were basically only ordered to disband through a settlement with the Attorney General of New York. And they faced a suspended fine. So they didn't even have to pay a fine. Basically, if they break their settlement, then they pay a fine, which I already think they have been breaking their settlement repeatedly by continuing to attack me and incite violence and hate against me and other Palestinian activists. But, it feels like they're doing all this so that they don't look completely incompetent by being, abdicating any responsibility to keep New Yorkers safe from Zionist violence. People are like, oh, well, I'm surprised the FBI, didn't just allow this to happen. Well, I think they would have a much bigger problem on their hands if a terrorist attack on the streets of New York City was allowed to come to fruition, when I have literally been telling the world about it and tweeting about it and being like, hey, this is about to happen. Is anybody going to stop it? Is anybody going to do anything? And that they would completely ignore that. So, I mean, this is the least that they can do. This is their job, what they're supposed to be doing. And it's not even the least. It doesn't actually even meet the bare minimum, given that these organizations have been allowed to operate regardless of the fact that they were considered terrorist organizations. And that, any penalties that they faced have essentially been slaps on the wrist or, scapegoats of just one or two people, when it's entire networks that work with people in the government to target and harass us. And I'm sure you have more questions, so I don't want to take, super long, but just one quick thing is that what people don't understand is that these are not just isolated actors. They are working with the U.S. government and with this administration in particular. There are court documents that shows that DHS, Department of Homeland Security, that the Trump administration got names of people who to deport from Qatar. And like officers of the law said this explicitly in court documents. So when they talk about denaturalizing me, I take that very seriously. And then we look at people like Leo Terrell, who is one of the head people at the Department of Justice right now, appointed by Trump, who continued to incite hate and violence against me even after this attack, prior to and after this attack, and he blocked me, which is illegal. But I don't even tweet at him or anything. I didn't even know who he was until he started attacking me. So the fact that that these targets are working in tandem with people in government and lawmakers like Randy Fine, who also said that if I had to choose between Muslims and dogs, I would choose dogs. Continues to make up lies about me, saying that I'm a Mamdani aide and I want to bring Sharia law to New York City and I want to ban dogs, and all of these crazy, ridiculous things. So, it isn't some fringe, lone, isolated, crazed Zionists. These are people who do have institutional pull, who do work with the U.S. government. And now, they're trying to make us feel like, oh, they got one guy, they suspended one organization, but it's an entire network that needs to be taken down from top to bottom, that, works with people in government that are going to continue to try to deport, imprison, and kill Palestinians by whatever means possible.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I had so many questions coming in my mind as you were speaking, and I started organizing them. And definitely we have to bring you back, because there are questions that relate to social movement organizing. There are questions about what the cost of fighting back, but also the tactics of fighting back and what happens with that, and the ways in which sometimes people say, well, don't really do it. If you fight back, maybe you will become more seen, and just like Al-Ain Alayki. Don't do it, and then they might some, but it doesn't. But in any case, I think, and the whole ways in which Bitar, isn't it Bitar that's also told the ICE about the names of students who ended up being in ICE. Anyway, I think all of these things we really need to also decipher and break down and unpack. And I think this would be, I know a lot of the stuff has been discussed, and I've been following. I know everything, I mean, not everything, but a lot of details about you, because I've been following all the stuff that's been happening with the students, with the organizers, so a lot. So we do definitely need to go over all of it, and even the organizing of within our lifetimes, the tactics, all of it we really need to do. We need to come back, maybe not today, but definitely I think it's really important to come back and discuss them. All of these details are really important, and for our students to think about maybe these topics for research and so on, to think about all the archives that's available. But I want to pick for one thread of what you said, the ways in which U.S. so-called criminal justice, we know it's an oxymoron. There is nothing just about the criminal justice system of the U.S. This is something like, there is something about targeting Palestinians, the exceptionalizing of Palestinians, which Palestine Legal has come up with, and I've been resisting it a lot, and I'm saying don't exceptionalize Palestine, but there are parts in which there is exceptionalizing of Palestine, which comes out with the whole anti-Palestinian racism and Zionism. And I want to move to Muna and ask you, Muna, to please talk about this the execution law that Israel has just passed, but also how does it tell us about the law itself? Explain to people who are listening who haven't had a chance to read the law itself and read the analysis that Adala has put out about the law, and how is it how is it racist? How is it not? I know that there are like Arab countries and others who have said that this is really bad for safety and security and stability in the region. Uh, that's their position. But can you explain how is this law? What's wrong with this law? And how is it racist? And how does it violate multiple things and so on? So please go ahead, Muna. Thank you for joining us too.
Oh, thank you for having me. And I apologize, I'm feeling a bit under the weather. So,
Salam.
Allah يسلمك. So this law that passed a few days ago, it's called the Death Penalty for Terrorists Law. And what's wrong with it? Everything is wrong with it. And first of all, what it says, it has two main things. So the first one, it says that the Minister of Defense orders the military commander in the West Bank to amend the military order that applies on Palestinians in the West Bank in order to impose a death penalty on anyone who intentionally kills based on what they define as a terrorist offense, which is also enshrined in Israeli law. So, and what they say very literally there, that this law applies to Palestinians in the West Bank. It excludes settlers. So it doesn't apply to it doesn't apply to Israeli citizens or residents, meaning that it doesn't apply to settlers who live illegally in the West Bank. So they can commit the same act from the same motives and they won't be facing the death penalty. So what's extraordinary about this is that, first of all, it's an illegal application of an Israeli law on the occupied West Bank. They can do that according to international law. So they're doing that. And then it's the racist, very clear and very explicit racist and apartheid legislation, where they're saying explicitly on who it applies and on whom it doesn't apply. And also that it's an almost mandatory death penalty. So everyone who qualifies, and again, it's a very political offense as well. So anyone who intentionally kills an Israeli citizen or resident, and they say that this was committed out of terror motives, what they defined in the counter-terrorism Israeli law, then the judge has to impose, like once they're charged, the judge has to impose a death penalty. And there's only one exception, unless there are very extreme exceptional circumstances for not applying the death penalty. And so, like you mentioned in the beginning, the whole world is moving towards abolition, and Israel itself for many years declared in front of US mechanisms that it was against a death penalty. Death penalty does exist in Israeli law, but it was never applied from 1962 when they executed Eichmann. And so they reintroduced it. So they're trying to revive it, and of course to revive it only on Palestinians. So, and the other part of the law which applies to Israeli citizens and residents, it's the death penalty for intentionally killing someone. And they have this weird, very vague category on the basis of from the motive of trying to negate the existence of the Israeli state. So this is very vague. It's not defined in criminal law. It's not defined anywhere. And we know very well that it's very political. And we know very well on who it applies. So although the law doesn't say explicitly it's going to apply on Palestinian citizens of Israel, we know that it can't. only applies to them, and it's not they're not going to try any Jewish citizen under this offense. And what the law also does.
Sorry. Can you? I didn't understand that. Can you repeat about how does it apply to the Palestinian citizens? But it's not. It's over, like covered. Can you
So
explain
yeah,
that?
so
Yeah.
so what the law says, what the this new law says, it's gonna amend the criminal law, the Israeli criminal law, adding the death penalty, and it only applies when a person intentionally kills someone, and when this act is conducted under the motivation of trying to negate the existence of Israel, of the Israeli state. This is what the law says,
Thank you.
with the aim of negating the existence of the state of Israel. So you kill someone with the intention or with the aim to negate the existence of the state of Israel. So it's like as a criminal offense in itself, it's very strange, and this category is very vague. If you're confused by what it means, it's part of it's part of it, and you know that you're not going to charge any Jewish, like any Jewish citizen who intentionally kills a Palestinian, for example. He's not going to be, they're not going to say that he did that with the aim of negating the existence of the state of Israel, because he is part of the state of Israel. Whereas Palestinians, even us Palestinians who are citizens of the state, were not seen as part of it. And it's so it's very ideological, and it's
Yeah.
very clear what they mean by adding it. So they try to play with these legal terms. And so another aspect of the law as well, it's that not only it's not only that it reintroduces the death penalty, but it also introduces it in a way that it takes away all the procedural safeguards that states usually include. For example, in the US, in order to have the death penalty, you need to have a unanimous decision, and it has to be a unanimous. So what they did is, for the military courts in the West Bank, they said that doesn't apply. Like a majority opinion is enough, and they also tried to say that people can't be pardoned. So and people can't be like they can't re-examine the offense. So they can't re-examine the death penalty. It's final. And another exceptional thing is that they also stated that the hanging, they also chose hanging, which is very, very cruel and very inhuman, even where death penalty exists. So what they also did is that they said that it would be executed within 90 days. With the prime minister, like a political figure, he is the only one that has the authority to extend it to an additional 90 days. So it's a very short period. And it's not something that is accepted even in the few states that enact the death penalty. And what it means is that if you discover new evidence, or if there is ground for a retrial, for opening the investigation of the case, it might not be even a possibility, because it's such a expedite process of 90 days, which also goes against international humanitarian law and what it dictates of at least 6 months. So beside it being racist, beside it being one of the most difficult laws, where they say that basically they also include the Israeli legal system in the killing of Palestinians, they also made sure to take all these procedural safeguards that would able to maybe decrease the number of those who face the death penalty. And one last thing, I think that maybe it should be emphasized, that if we're talking like legal, the law doesn't apply retroactively, meaning that current prisoners and current detainees in Israeli prisons and in detention camps, the law doesn't apply to them. So it only applies for the future, since the laws will be amended and the military orders are amended.
Thank you. I have so many questions. So, and this is, I mean, I think we actually really need to do like again multiple sessions, not one session. So I'm just going to ask you a few questions to see if you can, like, I'm sure you can expand on them. One is that you said it's the West Bank, so this doesn't apply to Gaza. Two, there were a lot of discussion about October 7th. So how does this apply or it doesn't in terms of retroactively? So this means what who gets arrested now, and the question it's also how does this compare to British colonial law? I don't like to use the mandate, but how does it apply? How does it compare to that? Oh, more question. How do Israeli legal lawyers and so on and so forth? This is very clearly that this is a very sophisticated, like a lot of details in it. It's they looked at do you agree with this, that this is very detailed and well read and well designed and so on? Do you agree with that? It's not like spontaneous, maybe in the first reading, the first design. Do you agree that it is well done and so on? And so where is the legal community? And legal in parentheses, the people who know legality and so on.
I will start from your last question, and you will have to excuse me and repeat your previous ones if I forget.
Let me go the previous.
Okay.
So I'm asking about, you said the West Bank. So does it apply to Gaza or doesn't it apply? And you said that this is retroactive, doesn't apply retroactively. But there was a lot of discussions about October 7th. So how does that, because it looks like they've been discussing it a lot of it about revenge. This is kind of like, and a lot of it has, I mean, I've heard, and I'm thinking, but maybe I'm wrong, and maybe what I've heard is wrong, that this has to do with the fact that Israel, as a body politics, Zionism, cannot swallow the fact that they were surprised, they were defeated, everything the Israel the mighty, October 7th destroyed that myth. So this is something they cannot live with. I mean, so this is about, you don't have to agree or disagree, but there is a lot about revenge. There's a lot about anger that they've been challenged to, and we were going to punish these whatever thugs and so on. But in any case, whether this is or not, but is this something that has to do with that? How connected it is? And if it's not retroactively, how is this would be? And the last issue is, how does it compare to British colonial, like the date, 90 days, does it get extended, does it not get extended?
Okay, so regarding the West Bank, so since we know that since 2005, when Israel dismantled its settlements in Gaza and also the military posts, and they had the disengagement plan, it declared that it's no longer occupying Gaza. So that means the military commander and the military bases in Gaza are no longer there. And since they are claiming that Gaza is not occupied, you don't have military courts as well applying to Gaza residents. So when we speak about military courts and military orders, it applies to the West Bank, still applies there. But what happens with people from Gaza, and that's why so the military courts, the first offenses that I spoke about, the amendment to the military orders, doesn't apply to residents of Gaza. But what applies to them is Israeli criminal law. So Israeli criminal law has some sort of extrajudicial or it applies to offenses that happen in the territory of Israel, and it also applies to offenses that are connected to the territory of Israel. So they can apply it on residents of Gaza. They did. There were a few cases in the past where people from Gaza were brought to Israeli criminal courts and tried there. So the second. So that the second kind of offense, the amendment to Israeli criminal law will apply to them. And the very main basic principle in criminal law is that if you introduce a new offense, it can't apply retroactively. You can't apply it to offenses and to acts that have already taken place. So although we hear Ben Gvir, and even in the committees and in the Knesset, he kept on repeating, we know that he's all about vengeance, he's all about torturing the prisoners. Prisoners today in Israeli prisons and detention camps, they're being tortured, they're being starved, they're being treated inhumanely. We know that. And he wanted to, and he was also taking pride in introducing the death penalty. And what he claimed is that anyone who has not been brought, like his case has not been open yet, can be tried according to this new law. But this contravenes with the criminal law principles, and the courts won't apply it retroactively. So we'll see if we're gonna see like shocking surprises with its application, but it's not supposed to apply to any acts that have already taken place. So it's not going to apply to anyone that has been accused of taking part in the 7th of October attacks or after that, like until the 31st of March 2026, basically. And regarding some of the mandate, the British mandate laws still apply to this day. Israel adopted them, and it still applies them. For example, home demolitions. It's part of the what they call emergency regulations, which goes back to the mandate time. The withholding of Palestinian bodies in order to use them as bargaining chips is also it's also based on the emergency regulations, which go back to the British mandate. But in 1952, what Israel did is that in 1954, is that in a law, it said that we're going to annul the death penalty that is found in the mandate regulations. So on the one hand, like this is what they did then, and they said we're not going to implement it, and we're not going to implement it on cases of murder or intentional killings. But we're seeing its reintroduction now in a very like racist apartheid law that is anything like what we see in other, like people say, even in South Africa, there wasn't such legislation that clearly stated that this law applies, this legal penalty applies on blacks, and it doesn't apply on the white population.
Thank you so much, Mona. I'm hoping we will be able to come back, but just in case we are not able to today, can you say what are you doing? And I know your job is really rough in Adala, but what are you plans to kind of like do? Oh, you didn't say what is the so-called legal community in Israel are doing about this? What are the judges saying? What are the other lawyers? What is this and what Adala is doing or planning to do? What kind of support do you need?
So after an hour after the law passed, we submitted a petition against the law. It was very clear from the discussions in the committee that initiated the law that it was going to pass. So we had already prepared ourselves to submit a petition against the law. So there is a pending petition and another one from another organization. And the court gave the state until the 24th of May to respond to our request to hold the application of the law until the proceedings end, and to submit their also response to the law itself. Regarding the Israeli community, they're split. So sorry. So you have the far right, the Ben Gvir and the likes who are part of the government, Netanyahu, who also supported the law. So you have a big chunk of the population who support the law, but then there are those who are against it. And it's important to understand also why they are against it. It's because it's so clearly racist, and because the death penalty, it's such an extreme measure that it puts Israel's image, like it's not a good image for Israel to have. And we've seen, like, even governments, the French and the British government, they were trying to push Israel to stop the law. So you have those that don't believe that a death penalty should be introduced or should be implemented. There are also religious, the religious who don't believe that a human can take the life of another human, of course. And there are those who are concerned, who are against it because they are concerned with the image of Israel. And I think that maybe deep down they think that they're already killing Palestinian in other means. They don't need to have it through a court and through an explicit offense.
None kind of like that could be allies or something like that. All of the lawyers who were defending Palestinian prisoners or so on, like there were a small number. Did they all leave? Are they still around? Are there, or they're so small they don't count?
With the just to know
The
clear,
few Israeli lawyers that, the latter, say, rendition of the Felicia Langer and Liat Semel and so on, there are still a few, but their
yes,
numbers
and
are so. Yeah, can you just talk a
yes,
little
of
bit about them?
course,
Yeah,
of course.
yeah,
I'm not. I didn't mean to
yeah, yeah.
overgeneralize that
No,
much.
I know. I
And
just
also,
wanted
the
you to
petition
speak.
was also submitted with other organizations who have a lot of like their Israeli organizations who have Israeli lawyers, human rights lawyers. Of course, human rights lawyers are against this law, and of course, there is the very clear position of and people are against the death penalty. But what I mean, it's like the politicians, those on the right, on the center, on the right, and even those on the left who fear that this law is only going to be problematic for Israel's image, not out of a concern to Palestinian life. But of course, that there are Israeli lawyers and organizations who are concerned with Israeli rights, who are concerned with the violations happening now against the Palestinian prisoners still held, the 9,500 Palestinian prisoners who are held in Israeli prisons in the most horrible conditions that we can't even imagine. So of course.
To make sure, because people don't like, and I think we all make this mistake, because we don't think of the Israeli lawyers and the Israelis who actually work with Palestinians. We don't think of them when we think Israelis, of the body politics. We don't think of them as Israelis, because we think of Israelis as part of the people who are racist and part of the settler colonial regime. So I definitely agree. I just wanted you to clarify that for our audiences. Thanks so much, Mona. We will try to come back to you if we have time, but definitely we need to bring you back and to talk more about this issue. And I'm sure our people are listening, because this is the first discussions, and we will come back. I'm sure the students will have a lot of questions too. Why don't we move to Omar? And Omar, if you can please talk about the petition. What happened? First of all, what happened to you, and explain more about the petition and what's going on in Palestine. Like, start with 5 minutes, just so I can also translate, and I'll tell you when to stop, so I can translate for you. تفضل عمر. يعني عمر فهمت علي بالانجليزي انت، بس العربي
افترض انه بدك شو اللي حصل معي، شو اللي كيف طلع لنا الهي وين احنا رايحين، شيء
والبيان يعني
البيان
العامة
نعم
والبيان.
نعم.
تفضل.
يعني نحن كفلسطينيين نرى أن ما يجري في الإقليم والعدوان الأمريكي الصهيوني على إيران وعلى لبنان وعلى العراق هو مرتبط ارتباطا وثيقا بالقضية الفلسطينية.
Okay, stop. We as Palestinians believe that, and we see that what is happening against Iran, the war against Iran, is very much connected Iran, Iraq, Lebanon is very much connected with the Palestinian cause.
يس. ولذلك يعني احنا بنعتقد انه العالم كله ادان هذا العدوان لانه خارج الشرعيه الدوليه. امريكا واسرائيل والعالم في جهه ثانيه كله.
And it's very clear the whole world has already condemned this aggression, this aggression, and US and Israel are actually acting against international legitimacy and legality.
فنحن بادر عدد من الفلسطينيين في الداخل والخارج بالعمل على إصدار موقف لشخصيات فلسطينية حوالي 200 إلى 250 شخصية لإصدار موقف تجاه هذا العدوان.
And so a number of Palestinian personalities inside Palestine and outside of Palestine took an initiative to take a position, adopt a position, public position, to express our position towards this statement. About 250 people.
هذا البيان يقوم على 4 نقاط.
This statement has 4 points.
الأولى هي إدانة هذا العدوان غير الشرعي على الإقليم لأنه يهدف إلى العودة إلى الاستعمار القديم ونهب خيرات المنطقة. هذا هو العنوان الأول أو النقطة الأولى.
The first point is to condemn this aggression against Iran is a continuation and repetition of the old colonial order that intends to dominate the region and to exploit its resources and its wealth today, right?
Yeah. نعم. النقطة الثانية هي المطالبة بإزالة القواعد الأمريكية العدوانية اللي منها بتنطلق الطائرات والعدوان وسحب الأساطيل من المنطقة العربية كلها.
The second point is to remove all US bases and all navies from the old Arab region.
النقطة الثالثة هي أنه أمن الإقليم يكون بالتعاون بين الدول العربية والإسلامية في المنطقة هي بعلاقات حسن الجوار هي التي تحافظ على أمن الإقليم.
The third point is that to consider the Arab and Muslim countries in the region to work together and to have neighborly relations, good neighborly relations that protects the security and safety of the region.
والنقطة الرابعة هي أنه بنطالب كل أحرار العالم وشعوب العالم أن تقف معنا في هذه المطالب ضد العدوان الأمريكي الإسرائيلي على المنطقة.
And the fourth point is to ask of all the world community and all the countries to stand with us in condemning the US and Israeli aggression against the region.
هذا هو مضمون البيان الذي وقعته حوالي زي ما قلت 225 شخصية فلسطينية.
And this is it. This is the content of the statement that has been signed by 225 people.
وعلى
Palestinian.
نعم فلسطينية في الداخل والخارج
من
أمريكا اللاتينية، الولايات المتحدة، كندا، أوروبا، الأردن، لبنان، فلسطين، غزة. طبعا فلسطين بما فيها الضفة وقطاع غزة.
That included Palestinians from Latin America, North America, Europe, Jordan, Lebanon, and Palestine, in the West Bank and Gaza.
وهذا هو البيان. هذا لم يرق يعني ما أعجبش السلطة الفلسطينية اللي بدها نعلن موقف أو بدها موقفها الذي عمليا مناصر لدول الخليج وضد الجمهورية الإسلامية، مع أنه إحنا تجنبنا أن نتحدث عن يعني هذه المسألة، لأن دول الخليج والجمهورية الإسلامية عليهم أن يتعاونا معا لاحقا.
This statement was not to the liking of the Palestinian Authority, that has a position that supports the Gulf states and is against the Islamic Republic of Iran. Although our position is that we believe that the Islamic Republic of Iran and the Gulf states should collaborate with each other and work out their relations peacefully according to the principle of good neighborly relations and peace with each and respect and peace with each other.
وعشان هيك ما يعني أجرت السلطة وقاموا باعتقالي، ومكثت هناك حوالي 5 أيام في الاعتقال.
That's why the Palestinian Authority came and arrested me, and I spent 5 days in under detention. Can you ممكن تحكي مين اللي اعتقلك من السلطة؟
اللي اعتقلني جهاز اسمه جهاز الأمن الوقائي الفلسطيني.
I was
دخلوا
arrested.
البيت حوالي 20 شخص، دخلوا البيت ويعني فتشوا بطريقة غير منهجية وغير أخلاقية، يعني بالعبث بالبيت. وفي البيت بس أنا وزوجتي اللي عمرها هي 69 سنة وأنا عمري 76 سنة، يعني في شلة اثنين إحنا.
And the body that entered is the Palestinian Preventive Security. They came, 20 people came into, 20 soldiers came into the house, and they searched the house in a very immoral and unprofessional way, and they searched everything, and it's only me in the house and my wife. She's 69 years old and I'm 76 years old.
فبالتالي هذا عمليا يعني الطريق للاعتقال. دخلوا بيت، في هذا البيت اتأسست القيادة الوطنية الموحدة للانتفاضة الكبرى، انتفاضة 1987. وهذا البيت دوهم حوالي 30 مرة من قبل جيش الاحتلال والسلطة، يعني بما فيها في 7 أكتوبر.
Okay. They came to this house, that this house, this was the house in which the unified national leadership of the Intifada, this is the 1987 Intifada, the Intifada of the Stones, which people refer to as the first Intifada. This is where the unified national leadership was founded, in one of the rooms, and this house was already searched and raided 30 times by both the Israeli occupying army as well as the Palestinian Authority, 30 times, including after October 7th.
فيعني ولا مرة ما كان البيت التفتيش فيه يتم بهذه الطريقة.
None of these times, 30 times, has this house ever been searched in this unprofessional and immoral way.
يعني وأنا بعت رسالة، هي هلا تقدر تشوفيها، بعت رسالة لوزير الداخلية ورئيس جهاز الأمن الوقائي، اللي قلت لهم يجب إجراء المحاسبة على مثل هذه الطريقة من التعامل.
And I already sent the letter and I can share it with you of protest, احتجاج.
طبعا
protest and demand for accountability.
ما بصير تعملوا هيك مع الناس.
لحظة خليني أكمل القصة الأولانية. To the Minister of Interior and to the person in charge of the preventive security forces, demand to protest and to demand accountability, saying to them, this is not you should never ever treat people this way.
نعم. وطبعا قعدت في المعتقل 5 أيام، حاولوا إنهم يساوموني يفاوضوني على كيف نوقف البيان اللي بده يطلع برا يعني.
In the 5 days when I was in detention, they tried repeatedly to negotiate with me how is this statement will be issued outside.
نعم. طبعا أنا قلت لهم هذا رأي عام، رأي الشعب، الشارع الفلسطيني، رأي الشعب الفلسطيني، وأنتم كسلطة لا تمثلون أكثر من 10% من الموقف الفلسطيني،
I told them,
وبالتالي نحن لا نلتزم بموقفكم يعني.
and I told them that this is a position of a general position of the Palestinian people. This is the position of the Palestinian street, and you only represent 10% of the Palestinian opinion. So you don't represent the Palestinian people. We don't represent you.
نعم، وبالتالي يعني قدموني لمحكمة وصار في ضجة كبيرة في الخارج.
لحظة شوي عمر، احكي على كيف شو كانوا يطلبوا منك بالضبط يعني هم.
نعم، هم طلبوا مني أولا إنه أجري اتصالات مع الناس في الخارج، إنه يا عمي خلينا نوقف البيان. قلت لهم عيب تطلبوا مني هيك، أنا بالسجن، هذا ابتزاز اسمه، وأنا لا أقبل الابتزاز بحال من الأحوال.
They asked me to contact people outside who signed the statement to ask them not to publish it, and I said you should be ashamed of yourself. You cannot ask me when I'm in prison to ask people to not publish the statement. This is extortion, and I don't accept it.
بعدين لأنه كمان هي بتعكس طريقة ديكتاتورية اللي أنا ضدها، طريقة محمود عباس اللي الديكتاتور، أنا ضد هذه الطريقة. هذا أمر عام ما بخص شخص واحد، فما بقبل أنا أمارس هيك سلوك.
And this also reflects a dictatorial behavior, and I'm already against it. I am not. This is Mahmoud Abbas behavior. I'm not going to. I'm against it already, and I'm not going to practice anything like it. That I'm already against it, but in prison or outside of prison.
يعني أنا عندي زي ما بتعرفي عندي كتاب اسمه الديمقراطية الفلسطينية بين الخطاب والممارسة، وبدعو للديمقراطية. مش معقول أمارس هيك شغلة. يعني كتاب 350 صفحة تحت هذا العنوان.
I already have published a book called Palestinian Democracy between theory and practice. It's 350 pages, and this is what I call for. I am not going to practice something that I'm against. This is what I believe in.
فجربوا يهددوني إنه يعني إحنا جهاز بنصعد. فقلت لهم أنا أمامكم مجال للتصعيد ضدي إذا بدكم، على الصعيد المالي والأخلاقي والوطني والاجتماعي. شو بدكم تساووا اعملوا على هذا الصعيد.
And so they resorted to threatening me. So intimidation. So they said, we can escalate. And Omar said to them, well, you can escalate. What? Go ahead and escalate. You can escalate on financially, socially, politically, and ايش كمان؟
اجتماعي ومالي.
I said مالي
financial.
بعرف financially, اجتماعي, politically, with the community, with the family.
نعم.
Go ahead. Go ahead, do it.
فلما شافوا هيك قالوا لي لا احنا ما بنقصد هيك، يعني حاولوا يتراجعوا، وكان صدر البيان وانا يعني بين قوسين بجربوا يهددوني. اجاهم تليفون انه البيان صدر يعني.
Okay, لحظة. And so while they were trying to threaten me, then they got a phone call that the statement has been published already. It's out.
يعني هذا المجال أنا كان كله نقاش سياسي بعدين، إنه إحنا بنعرف إنك أنت شخصية وطنية كبيرة، وبالتالي إحنا ما راح يعني ما بنقدر أو ما بنقبل لحال في الأخير. يعني لما شافوني قلت لهم ما بدي أقول لكم ولا أي معلومة، كل المعلومات عندي بس ما بدي أحكي لكم إياها.
يعني طالبوا منك، يعني طالبوا تعطيهم معلومات.
ولا طبعا قلت لهم ما بدي أعطيكم، لو عندي كل المعلومات اللي في الدنيا ما بعطيكم ولا معلومة.
They asked me to give them a lot of information, and I said I'm not going to give you any single piece of information whatsoever.
يعني هذا تقريبا ما جرى. قعدت 5 أيام، وبعدين بسبب الضغط الخارجي والضغط الداخلي وموقفي الصلب اضطروا انهم يطلقوا سراحي.
So I stayed 5 days, and as a result of the pressure outside internationally and inside in Palestine, and my own refusal to cooperate with them at any level, they were pressured to let me out. So I was
انا
released.
انا بعثت لك الرساله هي اللي بعثت لهم اياها اليوم،
Okay,
رساله
okay.
مفتوحه.
We will publish it. He said he sent the letter. We can publish it بالعربي بس.
ما هو بالعربي لسه
No,
ما
no,
جاي.
it's in Arabic, so we will put it on the website. You can see it, and we will see if we can, translate it, or if they translate it, we will publish the translation. We'll figure something out. We'll put it anyway.
نعم،
You can see it.
وعضوء الرساله اللي انا نشرتها على الفيسبوك بلشوا يهاجموا فيي، مع انه الرساله ايضا في تعاطف واسع جدا معها. هلا مع الرساله خلال ساعتين 3 صار مشاركها حوالي 18 واحد عامل لها كوبريت، يعني مشاركه على الفيسبوك، وفي تعليقات كثيره، فهم صاروا يهاجموا هلا في على الرساله.
Okay. So there is of course already support. He posted it on Facebook, so we can get the link. تعطينا اللينك عمر لما بنخلص حكي بنحطها رأسا هنا بالفيسبوك, and people are already supporting. So because people are supporting, they are beginning to attack it. And لا خليني أنا بدي أضيف. Let me add, not what Omar said. Actually, when Omar was in prison, there were some stupid comments that were there, but the campaign and the conference 14 million did not really pay attention to that, because it was just like stupid stuff. That كمل.
يعني هذا هو يعني. فاحنا بنواجه هون ضغوط يعني من قبلهم، من قبل الاحتلال. تنسيش انه انا اعتقلت في بعد اكتوبر، اعتقلت كمان 6 أشهر اعتقال اداري، وعانيت من كل الظروف
من الاحتلال
طبعا من الاحتلال بعد 23/10 يعني بعد اسبوعين من اكتوبر، وقعدت 6 شهور يعني في هذه الظروف. وكان قبلها صدر بحق قرار ابعاد، وانسجنت حوالي 8 سنوات قضيت في سجون.
Okay. طول بالك. And he said, don't forget that after October 7th, I was arrested, detained for 8 months, and I spent 8 شهور ولا 6 6 months by the Israeli occupation, and I spent 6 months in prison. And before that, I was I had a deportation order by the occupation. I spent 6 سنوات ولا 8 سنوات بالسجن.
8 سنوات.
8 years I spent in prison, in Israeli prison. So كمل.
هذا هو يعني. انا ما عندي شيء، اذا في سؤال بجيب هلا يعني.
اوكي، لا ما خلصتش انت. كنت بدك تحكي انت انه هذا اول شيء الوضع ليش، وشو بدكم، شو ال 14 مليون، شو
هي مسألة. طيب احنا وهذا كمان ناقشوني فيه في داخل السجن. قالوا لي انت بتطالب بحل السلطة وانت ضد منظمة التحرير.
And so I asked Omar, what is this 14 million and why is it that they're targeting you? And Omar says that we demand the resolution of the authority and the restoration of the PLO as it was originally.
قلت لهم أنا أحرص منكم على منظمة التحرير.
They accused Omar that you want to you want to destroy the authority and you want to destroy the PLO. Omar says, I care about PLO more than you do.
نعم، لأنه كل مؤتمر 14 مليون قام على إعادة بناء منظمة التحرير بالعودة إلى الشعب والانتخابات. يعني هاي الفكرة اللي إحنا بدأنا فيها.
And I said the whole idea of the conference of 14 million is to go back to restore the PLO to the principles that it was, and have elections for the Palestine National Council based on the representation of the people, and restore it to democratic basis that represents the people.
نعم، وقلت لهم بشكل واضح يعني أنا على هذا الصعيد إنه المشكلة عندنا إنه في مجموعة 6 أشخاص هذول مغتصبينكم أنتم، مغتصبين السلطة، ومغتصبين فتح، ومغتصبين منظمة التحرير اللي هم فريق محمود عباس. ال6 أشخاص يعني محمود عباس وماجد فرج
استنى شوي، خليني أترجم، بقدرش ألحق كل هاي الشغلات، عقلي بتحملش. And that, so I said to them that the problem is that there are 6 people who are basically controlling everything and taking over everything. The authority, Palestine, the PLO, the whole country, everything, and they are 6 people. He was going to start saying the names. I said, wait until I can. So one of them is Mahmoud Abbas. Second one is Majid Faraj. He's the intelligence, مش هيك؟ مش ماجد
نعم
فرج الانتليجنس
ماجد
كمل
فرج المخابرات، وحسين
intelligence.
الشيخ نائب ابو مازن،
حسين
ومحمود
الشيخ
عباس.
he's the vice of أبو مازن.
بعدين نائبته نائب او مديرة مكتبه انتصار ابو عمارة.
انتصار أبو عمارة who is the chief of
نعم
staff of
والهباش واحمد مجدلاني.
الهباش and أحمد مجدلاني. These are 6 people who are like a junta who control
هذول هم
everything.
اللي عمليا بيمارسوا كل شيء. واحنا وقلت انا للي هون يعني وإلهم انه اذا كان بتصلوا قالوا لي بنصلي، قلت لهم ادعوا انه ربنا يعني يثبت ايران، لانه دون ثبات ايران راح التقي انا وياكم في الاردن بعد 6 أشهر اذا صار شيء لا سمح الله مع ايران.
I asked them, do you pray? They said, yes, we pray. I said, well, when you pray, you should ask, pray to God to ask that Iran is victorious. Because if Iran is defeated, you and I are going to meet in Jordan, meaning that there won't be any Palestine anymore.
نعم. وبفكروا هم بفكروا انه احنا بيجينا تمويل من الخارج. هم
they think that we get financing from the outside.
يا فكروا انه احنا يعني قلنا لهم احنا الثقة الشعب فينا وثقة الناس فينا هي اللي بتمنحنا القوة، مش يعني لانه معنا مصاري او لانه حدا بدعمنا، لان بنعرف اللي بدعم بيكون في او اللي باخذ دعم بيكون بيشتغل باجنده الداعم الممول، يعني الفندر الممول.
And they accused, they said, oh, you get a lot of financing. And I said, no, we actually have the confidence and the trust of the people, because we know that usually the people who get funding work according to the agenda of the funders. We work according to the people's trust and confidence.
وبرضه قالوا الوضع والحالة وكيف كل الحالة الفلسطينية، وحكيت لهم يعني حكاية إنه حدا بيقول لي منهم مش في هاي الحالة قبلها قريء زيهم، يعني لو بدك تصير رئيس وزراء شو بتساوي؟
One of them, and longer, in an earlier conversation, says to me, if you will become a prime minister, what would you do?
نعم. فقلت له أنا أولا لا أقبل إنه أكون رئيس وزراء في هيك منظومة، لأنه كل المنظومة خربانة.
كمل.
بس إذا بدي أنصح رئيس الوزراء، بدي بنصحه بشغلتين. الأولى أن يطبق قانون من أين لك هذا، من عند محمود عباس ولاده لعند أصغر مدير عام. هذه المسألة الأولى مشان نعرف وين راحت أموال الشعب.
وقف. احكي الثانية. كمل.
والثانية بعمل سويتش، تبديل بين موازنة التعليم وموازنة الأمن.
اوكي وقف.
لأنه الأمن يأخذ الحصة الكبرى للموازنة.
I said that I would not become a prime minister, but if I am asked, I would give an advice to the prime minister. First, ايش النصيحة؟
اللي هي إنه من أين لك هذا؟
The first thing I would ask, where did you get all of this from? Where is this money? All of this money comes from.
ونبدأ من عند محمود عباس
لآخر. And we begin with Mahmoud Abbas, Abu Mazen, the president, to the smallest chief of a little office, and check everything and say, where is this money coming from, and investigate that. This has been always a call, by the way, this and a comment from me. And then and we find out, where is this money coming from? Where did it come from? The second thing I would say is we take the whole budget of the ميزانية الشرطة، مش هيك قلت أنت؟
الامن كله والتعليم.
Yeah,
او
we
الصحة.
hold the whole budget of the whole security, all the security forces, and exchange it with the budget for the education, and take the budget for education and put it for the security, all of it.
قالوا يعني ما بدنا امن، قلت هم بدنا، بس بدنا نعيد الامن نهيكله، وهذا واحد، واثنين نعيد النظر في العقيده الامنيه اللي انتم بتشتغلوا فيها.
Okay, and they said you don't need, you don't want us to have security. I said yes, but the security has to be revised and rethought to be for in its thinking about it and according to what basis is their security.
وقلت لهم هاي البلد صار داخلها حوالي 100 مليار دولار مساعدات خلال ال 30 سنه. 100 مليار دولار.
السلطة.
السلطه مساعدات، نعم. قديش وظف منها في مشاريع انتاجيه زراعيه
لحظة شوي.
صناعيه مشان تشغل الناس.
طيب. He says that the Palestinian Authority budget has been $100 billion. How much of it has been used to create the projects for agriculture, for industrial, صناعية، زراعية، صناعية، إيش الثالثة؟
بس صناعة مشاريع إنتاجية يعني في الإنتاج.
Basically productive projects.
نعم. مشان نشغل العمال اللي في إسرائيل ونعتمد على حالنا، ننفصل عن الاقتصاد الإسرائيلي، عن التبعية.
So we can hire our own workers so they don't have to work in Israel, and so we can depend on ourselves, have self-satisfaction and have our own economy.
وفي شغلتين أو 3 هيك نقاط سريعة أخرى. الأولى إنه هم ضد أي فكرة مقاومة أو مواجهة للاحتلال.
There is another couple of ideas. One, first is that they are against any possibility, any, not only a possibility, any resistance or confrontation with the occupation.
فقلت لهم أنا يعني أنتم لأنكم مهزومين بتكونوا ضد المقاومين، مثل يعني البنت بهم مش تاخذينيش في الكلمة العاهرة تحبش البنات المحترمات الشريفات لأنه بيكشفوا عورتها، لأنهم بيكشفوا عورتها.
جيب لي مثال ثاني أفضل.
مثال ثاني يعني مثل اللص ما بيحب الأمين. اللص ما بيحب الأمين لأنه الأمين بيكشف عورة اللص.
بس نسيت الفكرة الأولانية.
الفكرة الأولى أن المهزوم لا يحب المقاوم.
And I told them because the defeated do not like resistance. And why? Because he said that the thief doesn't want the honest person, because the honest person would expose the person who's would expose the thief. Basically, the person who's doing something wrong doesn't want the person who's doing something correctly, because they would expose them. Okay. Yeah.
وأن الحل الوحيد أمامنا، الحل الوحيد هو العودة إلى الشعب والانتخابات، لأنه أبو مازن ألغى الانتخابات سنة 2021 لأنه الانتخابات كانت ستطيح به وبفريقه، يعني راح يسقطوا.
Okay. And the resolution is to also be democratic. Abu Mazen in 2021 cancelled the elections because he was going to lose, him and his team.
نعم. وقالوا ما هي القدس؟ قلت لهم لا، اللي أنا شخصيا كتبت مقالي، قلت لهم هذا الحكي يعني سنة 1993 قلت فيها القدس أولا إن لم تكن في بداية المفاوضات فلن تكون في نهايتها.
They said the excuse is Jerusalem. Let me just explain, because the Palestinian Authority said we cannot have the excuse they canceled the election. The excuse they said, oh, we cannot include Jerusalem because there's
وبالتالي
all sorts of issues around Jerusalem. And I told them that that's not true, because in 1993 I wrote an article saying that Jerusalem must be first issue to discuss.
وبالتالي مين اللي أصر على إنه يوقع الاتفاق ويتخلى عن القدس؟ هو نفسه
Okay.
محمود عباس، هو صاحب
And,
الاتفاق.
and I reminded them that in that article I said, who decided to sign the Oslo Accords and to give up Jerusalem? It was Mahmoud Abbas himself.
نعم، يعني هذا عمليا محور الحديث اللي طبعا بالتفاصيل خلال الأيام الخمس اللي قعدت.
And this is just part of the details of the discussions that we've had in the 5 days. And
إذا في أي سؤال أنا بجاوب.
Questions. Okay, so are there any questions? We don't see. Leif, are there questions from the people who are attending? If there are no questions, except for the gentleman who says God bless Israel. Okay, good for you. We're moving along. Okay, I would like to have, okay, no questions. Okay, so let's have a conversation between all of us. And Nardine, Muna had to leave because she's very sick. She was sick at the beginning, and she loves the initiative, so we'll have more conversations. So I was saying that we have some time left for like 10 minutes actually. So why don't we just like go back and see, hey Nardine, if you have comments, let's do maybe 2 rounds, one comment, maybe 2 minutes each, and then I'm not going to ask my questions. I'll wait unless I feel like it. Okay, go ahead, Nardine, if you want to have any comments about the two presentations, and then we will go to Omar, and we'll wrap up, and then we'll do the discussion next time. So go ahead, Habibti.
Yeah, well, just learned a lot from the previous 2 speakers. And I think it's so important to redirect conversations back to what's happening on the ground in Palestine. Like you said, after I spoke, they really want to make it, try to signal or, make one person or one thing like the main story here. And I try to avoid, despite being the target of this being the story, I'm always reframing things back to what's going on the ground in Palestine. Even in my press conferences talking about how I was targeted as a mother, like with a child. I mean, I always talk about how that's the MO of Zionists, especially is to go after children. I brought it back to Ali Dawabsha, who was firebombed in his home, 18-month-old baby, firebombed in his home by settlers, and was killed, and that's what I think about when I hold my child. So I think it's so important that we talk about the increasing settler attacks, right? And on the rise of those not coinciding, but coming as part of, this execution law, when it's really, these settlers, basically they'll either find a way to execute you in your home, and, they don't face anywhere close to any accountability. They get very short sentences, right? Like they should be the ones who should be facing, such sentences. But, if they're not able to, if these settlers aren't the ones literally killing these Palestinians, then they're killed in Israeli jails. And of course that, brings us back to, what Omar was talking about with the Palestinian Authority and imprisonment. And, it just makes my mind go to the fact that we know that the PA conducts arrests of Palestinians on behalf of Israel. And so, I think about, I don't know, maybe it is a question for I know Mona had to leave, but for experts on this topic is, is the PA also going to be handing over people that are now going to be executed by Israel? And, that's an important facet of the occupation. One thing, my family always said growing up is like, Israel should pay the price for its occupation. Why do we have a fake, quote unquote, government that isn't acting on our behalf whatsoever, that's doing Israel's dirty work? And these are things that aren't interrogated enough. I think a lot of people who are new to the Palestine Solidarity movement just, look, genocide is bad, which is the bare minimum and very obvious. But what about, all of the aspects of colonialism and occupation that turns us against each other? And so I think this execution law is something that we have to resist. as much as possible. But, at some of these protests, you'll see like people who are representing the Palestinian Authority come and be invited as speakers and elevated. And I think, sorry, and I think that's something that needs to be interrogated. It's something that needs to be reckoned with, because this isn't just a struggle against genocide. This is specifically an anti-colonial struggle, and it's important to understand Palestine within that context, and how there are, the comprador bourgeoisie class that is used to oppress, our own people, and to extend and expand on the occupation. None of these things would be possible without each other. But I think that is something that the PA should be answered for. Why are they taking away self-defense mechanisms from Palestinians when they're literally being kidnapped and killed, right, by settlers, kidnapped by the Israeli state and executed, right? Like I think that pressure also has to be made. Are you going to allow your people to defend themselves by any means necessary? Are you going to crack down on Palestinians that are coming together using whatever means they have to defend themselves from this colonial terrorism? And I'm sure Omar has his own thoughts as well, but I'm curious like what his thoughts are on that.
Let's ask him. But I just before I ask Omar, I think it's a whole question also of reparations, because there is when we did the whole big campaign 100 years of Balfour, there was a lot of discussions of the British paying reparations. There is a question of the prisoners. There is, because the genocide is a way to implement. How do you accomplish settler colonialism? You have to do genocide. I mean, this is the Zionist project. I think there is a whole lot of things about what to do. What is the Palestinian Authority? Why is there a Palestinian Authority? And the whole question also of this violence that's going. Who collaborates with whom? How is there collaboration between ICE and Israeli agencies? I mean, all of these things that are basically discuss them all and can come back to all of this. عمر فهمت على نردين؟ اوكي، هي سألت بتقول انه يعني الحكي اللي انت حكيته والمواضيع اللي ناقشناها اللي هي منها مثلا الاعدام، قوانين الاعدام، قضية الحبس، اللي حكيت على المقاومة، وانه السلطة هي مش يعني بيتعاونوا. هل مثلا بقضية الاعدام كانت يعني لو انها منى هون بتسأل انه هل السلطة رح تتعاون مع انها تسلم المقاتلين مثلا للإسرائيلية حتى انهم يعدموهم، لانه في اتفاقية انه قضية ما يسمى بالقضية الجنائية بينهم وبين بعض. الناس هي بتقول هون الناس، وهو مزبوط هذا الحكي، مثلا بيقولوا احنا ضد الجنوسايد، بس هم بيعرفوا انه يعني من فترات طويلة كل هذا الحكي قضية استعمار. شو رأيك في هذا الوضع انه السلطة ما بتسمح للناس يقاتلوا يدافعوا عن نفسهم ويراجعوا حقوقهم؟ شو رأيك؟
يعني بدي أفرق بين ثلاث عناوين. الأول إنه السلطة معروف إنها تنسق أمنيا مع الاحتلال وتقمع المقاومين. وإحنا قبل بضعة أشهر كان لما صارت مخيم جنين، أكثر آسف يمكن لما ضرب مخيم جنين وحوصر مخيم جنين وقتلوا الناس في مخيم جنين، اليوم في موجود عند السلطة حوالي 400 معتقل سياسي ومقاوم.
وقف، خليني أترجم. خليني بس أكمل أحسن ما أنسى. Omar says, yes, you are right. And I would say like a few months ago, first of all, there is a security coordination agreement between the Palestinian Authority and the Israeli occupation. Secondly, let me just give you an example. A few months ago, when the Jenin camp was surrounded by the Israeli occupation, and then people were attacked, homes were destroyed, and so on, there are 400 people who are arrested, Palestinians, by the Palestinian Authority.
السلطة اللي هاجمت مخيم جنين، حاصرته وهاجمته.
It was the Palestinian Authority that surrounded the Jenin camp and surrounded it and attacked it.
وضربونا غاز لما رحنا نتوسط، ضربونا. كانت ناصر أبو حميد الختيارة، ضربونا غاز اللي رحنا هم
اللي انسجنوا استشهدوا مجموعة كبيرة من أولادها.
نعم.
And Omar says, when we went to try to negotiate peace, I think somebody
ستوب يعني لوقف هذا.
they tried وقفونا, or they threw tear gas on us, and it was even including Im Nasser Abu Hamid, whose children have been arrested and martyred, and we were all they sprayed tear gas on us.
وفي اليوم في 120 واحد من ال 400 عندهم احكام من المحاكم الفلسطينيه بالافراج عنهم، لكن السلطه بترفض انها تفرج عنهم حتى الان.
And today there are still, out of the 400, there are 120 people. يعني البقيه اطلق صراحه.
لا بس يعني لسه موقوفين.
لسه okay. So 400 prisoners still. 120 of them have already been sentenced to sentences in prison, and the Palestinian Authority refuses to release them. That the others, I asked Omar to clarify, the others are still detained without trials. They haven't had trials. 120 have been sentenced, and the Palestinian Authority refuses to let them go.
طيب هذا الشق الأول. الشق الثاني، لا أنا لا أعتقد إنها السلطة يعني راح يعني توافق أو تقبل بقانون الإعدام. يعني هذا موقف صدر موقف، وبالتالي لا يمكن أن يعني تتعاطى مع هذا القانون. يعني لا، يعني مشان نكون كمان واضحين يعني.
اوكي، معك نص دقيقة بس اترجم.
معي نص دقيقة. هي الشق الأخير في نص الدقيقة هو، ولكن أنا أعتقد بطالب اليوم، طالبت في مقابلة امبارح إنه ردا على قانون الإعدام على السلطة أن تتراجع عن المراسيم اللي عملتها للانتقاص من حق الأسرى والشهداء والجرحى من جهة، وأن تشتغل سفاراتها وممثلياتها برا لفضح السياسة الإسرائيلية وللذهاب إلى المحاكم الدولية. عليها هنا تعمل هيك.
I told Omar he had 30 seconds, so he said this is the first one. He said the first part is he doesn't believe that the Palestinian Authority will agree on the execution law, and they already issued a statement again. But he said, more importantly, I already spoke today and yesterday, and I demanded that the Palestinian Authority has all its embassies everywhere be very active now to expose this execution law, and to demand reversal and the dissolution of all the decrees that they issued to cut down the money that has been funded, has been already budgeted for the families of the prisoners, of the martyrs everywhere, immediately to be restored. This has been a very big demand of all the Palestinians. This is a very first sign to show that they are really against the execution law and to protect the rights of the prisoners and the martyrs. That is something that is a first step that needs to happen today, and this is a very important demand to be to be implemented immediately. Okay, and I think this is a very good place to stop. So, right, thank you so much. This is not finished. This is not the conclusion. This is just end of the conversation today, to say thank you both. Thank you, and Muna, so much for this is very fruitful, very important conversation. And lots of love to both of you, to your struggle, to your resistance, to your resilience, to your steadfastness, to being incredible models for all our people to stand. We'll bring you back again. I hope you also felt that this was useful. Thank you for people joining us. Long live Palestine. Long live justice.
الله يخليكم.
ناردين من بيت إكسا. ناردين؟
من بيت إكسا.
أهلا وسهلا. بيت إكسا يعني قريبين على بيت سوريك وعلى الحارة هي، احنا بنروح عليها المنطقة.
أهلي كانوا هناك قبل شوي. خلينا نحكي شوي بعد
Yeah, we can. Yeah, stop. Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much.